The Nashville Predators are set to host the 2023 NHL Draft. And just before the draft, they make a big trade. And Kimmel of Locked On Predators joins us to discuss that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. And you can also now hear us on the Sirius XM, on the SXM app. Just search for Locked On NHL. It is great to have Ann Kimmel of Locked On Predators with us, and a big week ahead for the Preds. They are hosting the NHL Draft later this week, and how is the buzz around the city for this big event?
I will tell you this, Nashville loves to throw a party, and Nashville really loves to throw a hockey party. So the Predators, of course, hosted the 2017 Stanley Cup Finals, which was a huge party in Nashville. They had the Stadium Series last season. And so this is a town that loves their hockey. So there is a tremendous amount of buzz around the city with the draft coming in, the awards show going to be here. It's also the 25th anniversary of the Predators franchise. So we're looking at a week of events and hockey partying, and this city is really ready for it.
Well, it sounds very exciting. What are some of the events that, people will have to do outside of the draft itself?
Yeah, so there are going to be all sorts of things going on all week long here in Nashville. The Predators are going to have at one point some alumni available for autographs, which will be huge here in Nashville. Of course, it's Music City, so Nashville can't throw a party without some great concerts. There are going to be concerts all week long outside Bridgestone Arena. They're going to have the Hockey History Museum is going to be here as well. We're going to have the young prospects are going to be holding a youth camp with some of the young hockey players here in Nashville. And here's my personal favorite one, Gil. The Nashville Humane Society is hosting an event with puppies for the draft at a dog park downtown near Bridgestone. So I am definitely going to be hitting up that party as well.
I love it. I love it. Now, as far as the draft itself is concerned, what do you see the Predators looking to do in the first round?
Yeah, this is such an interesting draft for the Predators. They're coming in with 13 draft picks. So we have a lot to do and a lot of options available. I really think the Predators are probably going to stick with their picks. I don't necessarily see them trading up, but I think what they're going to be looking for in the first round of the draft, they're going to be looking for some really offensive-minded players, unless they can grab one of those top two defensemen. And I'm thinking maybe Axel Sandin-Palika might be somebody, if he's available at 15, the Predators could be interested in. But in general, the Predators are looking to become more offensively minded. They're looking to become a little bit faster. They're looking for some players who have some great shooting ability. So with those first two picks in the first round, I think that's where the Predators are going to look to shop.
Should be interesting to see what happens, but change already coming to the Predators on Saturday. A trade announced. Ryan Johansson headed to the Avalanche in exchange for Alex Galchenyuk. Predators retaining 50% of the $8 million cap hit on this deal. Your thoughts about the trade and what it says about the direction this team is headed?
Yeah, this trade is really much more about the direction the Predators are headed than it is necessarily about Ryan Johansson as a player. Ryan Johansson has been with the Predators here for 8 years, but he really was sort of strapped with a contract that no matter what he did, he couldn't live up to. So it was an 8-year, $65 million contract in 2017. He was going to be that premier first line center, and it didn't necessarily materialize. And so that contract has been one of these unmovables for the Nashville Predators, and that's really sort of affected the way people have felt about Johansson's play. This is a great move for the team looking forward. Yes, they retain 50% of his salary, but that frees up $4 million for the next 2 seasons for the Predators to do some things with. Ryan Johansson going to Colorado, I think for him, I think he's going to land in a good spot. I think Colorado is going to find some real value from him in the faceoff circle, in playmaking with some of their offensive players as well. But for the Predators, this is a move that just reinforces Barry Trotz and new head coach Andrew Brunette are looking to move in a new direction. They're looking to get younger. They're looking to get faster.
And where, if anywhere, does Galchenyuk fit in?
That's a great question. It will likely depend on what happens in the trade or in the draft. And also if the Predators decide to make any trades, or if there is maybe some under the radar UFA that they're going to bring in. You know, he only played 11 games last season. I'm not real sure that the Nashville Predators are going to be super hot to sign him July 1st. So let's wait and see what happens between now and then. With the Nashville Predators, really anything is on the table. So I think this is a day-by-day thing when you're talking about what is his future with the franchise.
Now, we know Barry Trotz taking over as GM, but that happens on July 1st officially. Right. So who's running this draft, and what is the overall offseason plan here for the Predators?
This has been such an interesting transition to watch as David Poile is kind of the outgoing GM, Barry Trotz coming in to take over the reins. But what we've seen here in Nashville is that these two have worked together on so many things. And this started all the way back at the trade deadline. David Poile didn't make moves that Barry Trotz wasn't involved in. Barry Trotz has not had conversations about moves that David Poile hasn't been a part of. And I think it helps that these two have had such a long-standing working relationship. And I think it's worked really well behind the scenes as they transition. So when it comes to draft night, who is calling the shots? Both of them. I think David Poile, even though it's his last week as the general manager, is certainly going to have input. And I think Barry Trotz really respects what David Poile has to say and his thoughts. But I think the two of them together have really mapped out a path forward. I will say Barry Trotz, I think, is sort of taking the lead. David Poile seems to be doing a good job of saying, this is your team. What direction are you going in? Here's some feedback. But I think this is going to be a group effort at the draft before July 1st when David Poile finds something to do with retirement.
So what is the plan for this team? What direction do they want to head in between now and when training camp opens?
Yeah, it's going to be a very different looking Nashville Predators team. Andrew Brunette is the new head coach, and he's really focused on this team becoming a more offensively minded team. You know, over the past couple of seasons, this team is known for playing, some defense. You see Saros is the one winning games. They're not scoring a ton of goals last season. That's something that they want to change. So you're looking at some younger players with more offensive punch, having a really good shot at making this roster. We're talking about players like Luke Evangelista. We're talking about Cody Glass, who could step up and become a main playmaker for this team. Potentially, the Predators could see last year's first-round draft pick, Joakim Kimmel, make the roster. This is a real offensive-minded young man. I think the Predators loved what they saw from him in Milwaukee's postseason. So we're looking at a team that's going to get younger, going to get faster, and going to look to score more goals.
All right. And why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find you on social media and where they could find the podcast?
You can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can follow Locked On Predators online at LO_Predators. And of course, we're available on any of your favorite podcasting platforms, and we're on YouTube.
All right. Ann, always a pleasure. Thanks so much, and enjoy the draft.
Thanks.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Well, it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply.